Hello beautiful Patreons, and welcome to this month's exclusive video to do with the theme of Sea Princess. Now for this piece I already inked it, and considering the inking process was already like 3+ hours already, I just thought I'd show you the colouring process. For the inking process I used a dip pen, and if you are one of the Patreons such as botanists and higher, you will have the physical version of this printed in your pack for this month. For the digital reward, which is Rose Garden, you will have the digital version of this as well. So for this piece I sort of used a mixture of different art supplies. I used my Equaline liquid watercolours because they're really bright and really vibrant. I was going to say vibrite, I don't know why, that's where my brain went, to be able to do the background, because for this illustration in particular we're going to be doing a lot of layering. With the background in particular, I really wanted to keep to that really bright blue and mix in a bit of purple here and there. The main reason being for this is the fact that we are doing an underwater illustration, and we want the foreground to be showing like as the shapes get further away, they're just a deeper blue, so you can only see the shadow outline of it, and then towards the forefront we have a more detailed sort of coral section. So this character is called Coralina. She's a seafling, which is a tiefling from D&D, but they live particularly underwater. I like to think of them as sort of like shark merfolk sort of people, and I think they're really cute. It's not necessarily something that's true in the D&D world, but it's something that I genuinely think is absolutely adorable and 100% get behind. Coralina is a aforementioned princess of the sea. She's absolutely utterly adorable. She's quite small in her frame. Her horns look like coral, and she loves to search for treasure, beat pirates at card games, and have fights with sharks. She's a bit of a spunky, very happy-go-lucky character, and she has friends that live in her hair, and they like to go on treasure hunting adventures. So for this piece I really wanted to do this sort of like character sort of floating, maybe looking around. I did a few thumbnails for this, and in the end decided I wanted to do a very detailed forefront with a lesser detailed back. So here what I basically did was I layered the Equaline to get my basic shading done, built up the layers with watercolors, in particular really concentrating on those blue washes, trying to make it look like the further something away it was, we could only see the shape. That's why I sort of went loosey-goosey with the lines at the back. I did debate on not adding lines at all, so then people could decide on what they wanted in the shadow area if they were colouring this in, but I like the idea it's a sunken wreck surrounded by coral, maybe with sharks or dolphins swimming around. We don't know, we just see the shape, and that's all very exciting. I think this character is so cute. I love her color palette. I went through quite a few design aspects before I turned her into the fun design that she is now. This month was sort of like difficult for me. I've had a bit of an art block / burnout this month, and all the plans that I did have sort of went out the window because I'm also planning to do a store update on September 17th. The store update includes some new necklaces and some new merch, so I've been working on that, and everything else has just been sort of quiet. But if you have been keeping up in the Discord, the exclusive part for patrons, if you do check in there, I have been posting quite a bit in there. I will post up on the Patreon showing what I've been working on. I want to get back to doing like the weekly or bi-weekly updates. Let me know what you think, because that's always important to get your sort of feedback. So for the forefront, I originally, for like the foreground element, I did a light wash of blue because I didn't really want any white to be on the paper. I left the character blank because I knew I wanted to colour her with alcohol markers. The main reason being I was going for a sort of like overly detailed like background, foreground element, and then the character being cell shaded, very much like an animation trick that they do with like a lot of animation companies companies. What they do is they have these very detailed painted foregrounds and background elements, and then cel shaded character in, and I just think it adds that sort of like childlike wonder to the illustration overall itself. If I was to change anything, what I probably would do is have this very detailed foreground element, but you know where I've got like the slight background area nearer to where the shipwreck is, I wish I'd gone less detailed with that to show like the depth overall. I think that there is a lack of depth being really pushed here, which we could have gone much further. Maybe made the coral a little bit smaller in that section, so we'd have a deeper area for the blue to show the wide vast emptiness of the sea which this character lives in. But you know, we could go design elements for ages with this character, because having an underground water sea character is a lot of fun, and I would love to see everyone create their own little seaflings. Tieflings in D&D, they're only retrospectors technically. They have horns, maybe a tail, maybe hooves, I don't know. I like the idea of like characters that are inspired by the ocean, because the ocean is such a fascinating place. It's so full of colour and dark and wonder. Like, there's so much that we still don't know, and I love that about the ocean. I love like all the different elements that you do see, and it'd be really fun to see everyone do really fun character designs based on that. And since Coralina is very much, she lives among the coral, I like to think that she lives in an old pirate ship, and like all of her treasures that she's got, she's put in there, and she's heavily decorated it. She does like to go on land sometimes, but really feels that her home is at the sea. Sort of like how like you can have sea creatures. I think there's mud puppies, and like they can go between water and being on land. And I sort of like the idea of like she can breathe and live quite happily underwater, and like doesn't mind the land, but it's not as colourful and as interesting as the sea. And that's sort of like, I really like the explosion of colour here at the bottom, and that's what I was trying to go for. I was trying to use more muted tones for more further away elements, and in the end I actually washed them a lot with blue. This was to deepen a lot of the shadowy areas and to show the like further away, to give that illusion of depth to it overall. In this illustration there are some hidden creatures. There is a crab, he's looking at the treasure. The treasure's being held by an octopus. There's a lot of squishy fishies around here, which in the end, after I'd done everything, I actually went over a lot of stuff with some Thule art markers, which are just acrylic pens. You can do the same with gouache, but I just really like the control that I have with acrylic markers. And what I did was I just highlighted a lot of fish, highlighted some layers where I'd gone a little bit too dark with colours, and I tried to do the same with pencils, and find that pencils give me a lot softer effect than they do with pens. If you see me on the Patreon, if you've seen these videos up on the Patreon, you know this is a technique that I really love to do. I love layer building. Layer building is really fascinating for me. Textures are really important to me, because I find that textures can give a lot of variety to your work, and this was really fun to work with. I sort of like switching around with Patreon between doing digital and traditional art, because that's sort of what I'm like. It depends on what the flavour of the month takes me for, and that's why I really love seeing what you guys vote for, and it also helps inspire me with my illustration work. So for example, last month we had a really fun theme, and that was mainly digital, and this month we're going mainly traditional, and who knows, maybe next month we'll go digital / traditional again. Sometimes I like to mix it up. Sometimes it's digital line work, or say traditional line work with the opposite being say traditional line work going into digital colour, or digital line work going into traditional colour. I like mixing it up. I think it's fun. But yeah, the danger that you do have when you're mixing a lot of colours and mixing a lot of layers is sometimes your colours can end up being quite muddy. So to avoid this, I try to use brighter colours when it comes to layering on top of darker colours. This stops things from looking kind of muddy and helps like define certain things. Like for example, on these little leaves that you see here, I was building on top with lots of oranges and yellows and pinks to really brighten like these sort of areas that I was after. And when I wanted to deepen shadows, I was going more blue, because this would be a sort of effect that I was after. Like the further something away is, the less shape it takes, because hey, you're in the ocean. I tried to avoid using black as much as possible, instead choosing grey or dark blue and purple for the shadows. This is because with the amount of colour that we're trying to represent for under the ocean, black's just a really sharp colour, so that's sort of what I was trying to avoid. So within colouring Coralina, I actually had her design done already, her sticker design, and I just wanted to follow through that. So I was using peachy tones and pinks for like the highlighted areas and the brighter colour areas. She went through a lot of design aspects before I came onto the finalised design. I decided like really like soft pastel tones was really fun to work with her, and having her in like this cute little sailor outfit. I did think of basing her on like the tiger shark with like the patterns, or whale shark, you know, to try and bring all that pattern into her skin tone. But I thought this really bright tone, like sort of like pastel sea foam, just was perfect for her. It just seemed absolutely wonderful. I sort of based her colouring sort of like an orca, and then built up layers through that way, and just sort of played around, added a few like little specks of scaling here and there, just to bring out the colours a little bit more. She's just super cute. I really love her design so much, and I wanted something that was cutesy instead of just like, oh, she's the princess of the ocean. I wanted something more cutesy than that. Like, she's the self-proclaimed princess of the ocean because she's so hecking cute. I really love the deeper purple against all this pastel tone. I just think it like layers out absolutely perfectly, especially considering like her skin tone is so light. Having that darker hair tone, I just think balanced it out properly, if I'm honest. The only things I would really change if I was to ever look back and like redesign her a little bit, I would probably add a little bit more yellow to her design, just to tie back to the fact that she's got these bright yellow eyes. She does have a yellow bracelet, but I feel like there's a missed opportunity here to add more yellow into her design, especially if you're going to like character design in general. Colours tend to always be reused again and again, and this is so like it's consistent within the color scheme of the character design. Especially with yellow, it would deter more for like the bright cheery side of her, considering she's quite a cheerful character, it would add that element. I think a yellow outfit would distract too much, and I love the sort of like light blue sailor outfit because it seems like she would wear this as she's swimming around. I'm going to apologise if you can hear a little bit of background noise. There is building works happening in a few houses over, and I can never control when they're actually going to be doing their building work, so I do apologise for that. So here you can see what I'm going through is I'm just going through and I'm highlighting like bubbles and adding like where those like little squishy fishies are. I'm just highlighting them and actually putting the colour on them, since I hadn't done that with the watercolour. I knew this is because I needed them to pop a little bit more. And you'll also notice as well, like the fishes towards the background elements, they are blue because we want them to like sort of blend with the background. And here she is, the finalized illustration. I'm really happy with it, and I can't wait for you all to receive the Patreon packs this month. I think this month's winning theme, so September's winning theme, is going to be the Tarot Witch, which is going to be awfully fun because I've already been working on merch for a Tarot Witch, so I'm very excited. Thank you so much for helping the garden grow, and as always folks, stay creative.